And I see that we have our next speaker in the house who we've had lots of time sharing, and she definitely is a parent. She is a new mom, and also her son looks absolutely fantastic, and so does she in Ocean's Merch, as well as her partner. So your pictures have been floating around our world of social, and she's fantastic. And you would have seen her on last month. She was sharing in the reel, but let me introduce you to Amanda May. She is a beauty boss turned CEO. And when I first met her, I absolutely loved her story. I kind of went like from lashes to Caesar's palace, right? I mean, you just have such a beautiful story around inner and outer beauty. Former on-air guest at Home Shopping Network, and you have left your mark at Home Shopping Network. And I'm hoping that you're going to share some of that journey with today. You know, you're a multi-international best-selling author. You have danced in many forms of media and success throughout the beauty industry and otherwise. So we're super grateful that you're with us today. And I love your topic. Your topic is I choose, I create, I move forward. And so that's why I talked about, you were talking about your, the lash business, all the way up to saying yes to a position at Caesar's Palace when you didn't really know what the job entailed, and then what that took, and then how you've really CEO'd pretty well everything that you've done and just what you're doing right now with when I say a very new baby in her life, I mean very new baby in her life. The interesting thing that we've been talking about, the thing that you don't know, I have to say, this is the most unique so far. So Amanda May, when I asked her, what is the thing? She's like, I love getting the hiccups. I'm like, let's tell people that you love getting the hiccups, and no surprise that the music that you're listening to and love is Beyonce. And you are going to get some incredible gifts today. So everybody is going to get this free download on the Beauty Boss Blueprint. I love that. It's like BBB. It's kind of like stand up, speak up, and show up. Beauty Boss Blueprint. And you are going to also give to one person 4 personalized strategies to create the life you love with a concealer, corrector, and primer divine wheel. I don't know why I can't say that all together. It's not flowing for me, but I know what it is because I have some on. But putting a divine wheel. So thank you for saying yes to coming and sharing with us today. So let's talk.
Yeah. Thank you. I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. Is my
Yes.
headphone working? Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Good morning. Well, good afternoon now. What a rich morning I've been on, even though my video wasn't on, because like Deb said, I am a very new mom and also an older mom, all at the same time. So my daughter is 3 months old. She just turned 3 months a few days ago. So very new in that aspect. But then also I have a 20-year-old son. So I waited a lifetime to do it again. So I know the momager aspect, and I also know what it's like to move forward with very little sleep at night. So hey, I can do both. I can do both. But I loved the morning talk where we were discussing midlife, because I'm gonna be 40 in a couple weeks. And while she was explaining some things that happen in midlife, like you've already raised your kids, I was like, well, I did, and here I go again. So, so I get to do it twice. It's a really big blessing. All right, cool. So do I just jump in? I know it's
Let's
been
just
a little
jump
bit
in.
different from speaker to speaker. Okay.
Yeah, no, just jump in.
So all about creating your life deliberately. That's what this is really about. And so there are aspects to that I want to share with you. One of the things I'm going to take you through today is a little exercise that's been super helpful in my own life. So I'm going to go ahead and share that attachment in the chat so that you have it and it's ready. That you can just put in a little parking lot. We're going to come back to that in a couple points. But I definitely wanted to have it there and ready for you so you can download it and have it available. So we're going to talk about 3 things. Really, I've broken this talk down into 3 aspects. Number 1 is embracing authenticity and self-expression. So these are all the things, these are 3 areas when it comes to living deliberately that I feel make the most impact in choosing how you're going to create the life that you want. So one, embracing authenticity and self-expression. That's where we'll get into the beingness exercise. Number two is the path to empowerment and fulfillment. This one's going to be fun. That's where I'll talk more about my work accomplishments and some of the things I've done there. And then number three is cultivating inner peace and harmony. And that's where I'll wrap up and we'll do a little bit of an outro exercise as well. So it'll be interactive. I'll talk a little bit, but there's going to be some things that you all will get to experience as well in this. And as much as I love to talk about myself, I could go on and probably spend the 30 minutes just talking about all the cool things I think I've gotten to do in my life. But we'll get there and we're going to do some other things along the way. Sound good with you all? Give me a high five, thumbs up. Cool. Awesome. So there comes a point in life where you learn that living deliberately is where you reach your full potential. And that's where that happened early on in my career, but it continues to evolve along the way where I reach new levels of deliberate creation, where I'm taking myself off autopilot and I'm really focused on deciding and then doing. And when we decide and then do, we have a lot of momentum behind what we're creating. So my goal today is to inspire and empower all of you on your journey so that you can live even just a little bit more deliberate along the way. I like that. Thank you, Kathleen. All right. So living deliberately is really a concept that is, it's a conscious decision to live in alignment with your core values, with your aspirations, with the dreams and goals that you have. And it's linked to more mindfulness. It's a mindfulness creation. It's a self-awareness, and it's about living authentically. And so, like many, I'll speak many, but definitely personally, in my early 20s, I had no idea what that meant. I was trying to figure myself out. And so that was 20 years ago. And I've come a long way since then, and I'm still learning what that means at each new stage in my life. And so when I first started to understand this concept a little bit more, I was at an event and I was speaking, I was presenting, and it was like one of the first times I was ever asked to speak in front of people. And I really didn't have any idea on how to like formulate a speech, or, I just kind of got up there and rambled. But I met one woman that was so vibrant. She was bright and her presence was strong. And when she talked to you, it was like you were the only person in the room. She had this aura about her that was so big. And it was like you could just tell she was soaking up every single thing in life and like enjoying all of it. And I'm like, I don't know who this woman is, but I want to know her. I want to be like her. I want to learn from her. Everything about her, please tell me what to do. And so it wasn't shocking when I found out she was a vibrancy coach, which I didn't even know such a thing existed at the time. I barely knew a business coach was a thing, let alone like a vibrancy coach. So I hired her. She was my very first coach. And it was a lot at the time. I mean, I think we did some in-kind stuff because I had a makeup line that I had just launched. And so I gave her a certain amount of products, and then it was like $1,500. And then I got to work with her for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 sessions. And so that was a stretch for me at the time. 20 years ago, $1,500, new in business, felt like a lot of money. It was the first time I had ever invested in myself. And I knew that I wanted to be vibrant, and I knew she was going to be able to teach me how. And so she lived without fear. She lived life fully. And it was like, that's what I want to learn. And so I, had to invest in myself. And when I think about, living deliberately, it's like you have to know who you want to be like and maybe who you don't want to be like, to help you evolve along the way. That's what the next exercise is going to be a little bit about. But but she was absolutely transformational in my life. And we were talking earlier today, I heard somebody mention those people along your path that have made a really big impact. And her name was Elle Swan. She has stopped coaching now and like lives the nomad life and travels all over and, you know, does meditations and yoga, of which I'm still very much inspired by. And like maybe one day after kids are grown, I'll experience that level of living. But I knew that I needed to have somebody who could help me learn how to inspire other women. So she was an inspiration for me, but it was like my heart was to inspire women. That's why I got into beauty in the first place. And that's why I started the makeup line. So it was like, but I didn't know how to do that because I didn't know who I was. And so she was somebody who helped me discover deeper levels of myself so that I could make deliberate decisions along the way. She was somebody that told me early on, you need to have your makeup line be your name. And I was like, I'm going to name it Divine. Great name, but it wasn't mine. That's not my name. And so I just didn't understand the idea of personal branding. And, you know, many coaches later, and now what I feel like a career that really has had impact and stands for something. Now my brand really is more just my name because that encompasses everything I'm doing. So, so she was the first person that mentioned that, although that came many years later. It did come full circle, and so I think about all of the little tiny things that she taught me, and when I think about living vibrantly and living big and having this beautiful aura, she was my first archetype on what that looked like. I didn't come from a place where I was surrounded by a lot of people that were being that way, and so this was a new reference point for me. And so she's one of the women when you were talking earlier today that came to mind. Of course, I wanted to share about her as well. So there's a really good quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. The purpose of life is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experiences. And that's what I feel like Elle Swan was in my life, teaching me how to reach out for those newer, richer experiences. So that's my mission, is to be that for other women. All right. So point one. All right. We feel good about that. Have you ever heard of a vibrancy coach before? Anybody ever heard of it? I mean, it's cool. You can, yeah, okay, cool. You have. Yeah. I mean, you could be a coach of anything, just be it and be it really well, and then coach people how to do that. Because we all need different, we don't know, you know, we have these beautiful aspects of ourselves as women that when we really tap into that piece of who we are and show that authentically, because we're deliberately showing up as her, people are going to be transformed by that. So you don't have to be everything, but just be that one thing really, really, really well. That was just a little side note. Anyway, okay. So number one, my point one is embrace authenticity and self-expression. So these are integral parts of living deliberately. And it reminds me of a story about Jamie Kern Lima. Do you know who she is? Does anybody know who she is? Yeah. She's like really, really cool. And there's a lot of interviews around her right now. She is the founder of It Cosmetics. For those of you who do not know, she sold her company for $1.2 billion to L'Oreal. And I'm currently reading her book called Worthy. So yeah, are you good? Awesome. Yeah, I just started. I love it. I've listened to a lot of her interviews. But when I think about embracing authenticity and self-expression, this was a path that this woman had to go through to really get to the point where she could sell her company for $1.2 billion. And when we talk about really tapping into who we are and showing that to the world unapologetically, this woman did that. She had rosacea and she had hyperpigmentation, and she's a little heavier set, and she would go into these meetings to sell her product line, and people would tell her no based off the way that she looked with her weight, or they would say nobody's going to buy makeup off somebody who looks like you. We want women who look flawless. So they didn't want the skin condition, like they didn't want to expose that. So she just kept getting no, no, no. And the reality is she kept staying true to who she was. But she didn't feel worthy at the beginning. And she talks about that in her book. And I really related to that because when I first got into this industry, it was from not feeling worthy. And I used makeup as a way to cover up all of the hurt and pain that I was experiencing on the inside. And I still find that that's a place that I go to at times if I'm feeling like upset or disappointed. I'm like, I need to go get my hair done. I need to go get my nails done. I need to put makeup on. I need to do something because that's going to make me feel better. So I still can go to that place. Now I know what I'm doing. I still do it because it does make me feel better, but I don't let that become an automatic response. It's like, you know what? I'm going to go get my hair done because I'm going to feel good for a minute. And, I don't expect it to solve all my problems, but, but with her feeling unworthy, I could connect with that because when I was young, my stepfather had left my mother and I was very, very close to him. And when I was 13, I was 12 or 13 when he left. I didn't have I didn't have the awareness to comprehend that him leaving wasn't about me. That how could you choose out of this relationship? Because it also meant you were choosing out of me being your daughter. And even though he was a stepfather, he was very, very close. And so I had a hard time dealing with that. And so I felt very abandoned. And then my biological father ended up passing away when I was 16. And I watched him pass. I was sitting next to him when he passed away. And he was an alcoholic. Amazing man, great character, like so funny, mainly because he was always drinking, but he was really lighthearted and funny. And honestly, like the best checkers player you will ever play. And you almost want to lose because he takes so long to actually make a move. He like really thought through every single move that could happen after that move. And you're like, oh my gosh, this game's taking, 6 hours. I'm over it. You win. But he passed away when I was 16. And I remember sitting next to him and I gave him, and at 16, I'm amazed when I think back to this time because I gave him permission. I don't know where that came from, but somewhere in my heart, I knew he needed to know that I was going to be okay. And so I sat next to him that day and I said, it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to be okay. And he looked at me and looked up the ceiling and said, it's my time and and it's within like an hour of knowing that I said I was going to be okay. And it was like, that's all he needed to know. And with that, I struggled. I did tell him I was going to be okay. Eventually, I became okay, but not right away. Right away was difficult. I started using drugs. I started turning to alcohol, things to numb the pain because, again, I didn't have the tools to actually heal these things or deal with these emotions that I was going through. And so I felt very unworthy. Why couldn't he stop drinking because he loved me and he wanted to be around? Or why did my stepfather leave my mom when I was a part of the picture? Like I really looked at those things as being a reflection of my value as a woman. And because of that, I ended up turning to things that were not helpful and not useful in my life, like drugs and alcohol. And then I started to attract relationships that were in alignment with what I believed about myself, which was that I wasn't worthy of love. And so I was attracting a lot of abusive situations and drug users and things like that. And so, it was a difficult season in my life. But at that point, it was like I really had to learn how to feel worthy of everything that I wanted. And when I did that, when that started to happen, it was when I started to discover what it meant to live deliberately. And that's when I got into personal development and I started getting coaches. And I did not go to business school like Deb. I didn't go to school, but I learned another way. I learned through experience. And that maybe took me a lot longer, but I have a lot to pull from, which is a really big blessing. So when it comes to embracing authenticity and self-expression, I had to learn how to do that. And this is one of the tools that I used. Um, this is like a beingness scale. Okay. So this will be fun. So pull up the attachment that I sent over. And this has a few states of being on it. Now you can pull from this list. This is just a reference point. You can put something else. It's whatever's on your heart. Okay. So what you're gonna do, and let me give you this quote too, because I like this quote too. This is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And so living deliberately is about getting closer and closer to who you are, being yourself. Okay. So what we're going to do, and this is something I made up because I like Zig Ziglar says you have to be before you can do, and you have to do before you can have. So it has to go in that order. So you have to know what you're going to be before you take action. And then your taking action creates what you're going to have because of the actions you took. So we're going to start step one. And that's all we'll do in this one. But in the Beauty Boss Blueprint, it outlines more aspects of this. So the states of being are listed there. And of course, use that or something you decide. But what you're going to do, like I gave you a story about Elle Swan and how she was, the type of beingness she had. You're going to choose two people who inspire you. And it could be anybody. I would say the first two people that come to mind, don't overthink it. It's like whatever comes up in your spirit. So put two names down, two people that inspire you. All right. For each of those people, you're going to choose three aspects of their beingness that you are drawn to. So oftentimes we're drawn to, we have these things on automatic. We think that it's just our personality. But what we don't realize a lot of times is that our personality is shaped by things we see. Sometimes it's parents, it's social media now. It could be what we've seen on TV, what we've seen just in our environment. And that's either modeled behavior. I like that, so I want to be that way. So then we start emulating that. Or I don't like that. And I don't like how it felt being around that person. So we put up this resistance, and it's like this feeling of separation when we have this resistance. And when we're resistant to being like somebody, then we shut ourselves off and, we end up going, no, I'm not going to be that way. But what we want to create is what we want to be like. So instead of operating in an automatic resistance, we're going to operate in attraction. So for each of those three people, you're going to list three states of being that you see in them. How is this person? How do you experience them? And for the sake of time, I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I feel like I could talk forever. And I know we're coming to a close, and I want to give a little bit about what I've done in my career. And so, what I encourage you to do is after we get off of the call today, is spend even 30 seconds feeling what it feels like to be that way. Feel what it feels like to be happy, to be vibrant. Make those deliberate decisions about who you are before before you have interactions, before you go into meetings, before you make that phone call. Decide and then do, because what you're going to have from that is going to be rich. So I would encourage you to do that after. I would love to hear about how that goes for you. So feel free to message me. All right. So then the path to empowerment and fulfillment. This is where, as a beauty boss, what I've done is I've taken aspects over the years of working on my business, working in my business, working and then working on me. We've talked about working on me. working on my business happened at the beginning when I first started in beauty. I was doing a lot of services. It was a lot of behind the chair kind of things. It was getting training, understanding more, learning the different aspects of beauty that I might want to actually tap into. And then there's working on my business, which is actually where I'm at now. So it's evolved over time. And so some of the things that Deb mentioned is, when I when I first started out in beauty, I was just running my own little boutique location inside of another spa. That I met another woman. I won't go into the story for the sake of time. She also was very vibrant. She lived in Las Vegas. And I was like, I want to be like you. I want to live in Las Vegas. So I left everything that I knew in Ohio because she just had this, like, I was like, there's nobody like you that lives in Ohio. I don't know. I hadn't met them. I'm sure there are. But I was young. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to come there if that's what Vegas is like. So I moved to Las Vegas, and shortly after that, I applied to work at Caesar's Palace to run the salon there as a salon manager, having no business experience. But I was like, you know what? I can do it. I'll Google whatever I need to know. I can figure it out. So when it comes to like that concept of fake it till you make it, which I don't actually like because I wasn't faking it, I knew I could do it. I applied for the job. I got the job. And in these big corporate meetings with the president of Caesars Entertainment, they're throwing out terms like P&L. And I'm like, I have no idea what that stands for. So I'm writing things down and Googling it later and figuring it out. So I figured it out along the way. That was my business training, really. I got paid to learn business school at Caesars. And so I found myself in situations where I was manifesting it. Really, I didn't find myself in it. It's not like I fell into it. I created it. But I would be in situations where I was always pushing to learn and go to the next level. From there, I ran New York Fashion Week and Miami Fashion Week. I had teams of 30 artists. And at that, it was the relationships that I've made along the way that led me to the next thing. So having having integrity and quality relationships is what opens the door for you to go to the next level. And from those fashion shows, I ran Sports Illustrated. That was my biggest show I ever led. I had met a woman then that asked me to be the face of their brand on HSN. And we had sellout shows and it was a blast. Obviously, you can tell I like to talk. So I got in front of the camera and just, sold away. And it was great. And I loved it. And I hopefully get to go do that again someday. I'll put that in my vortex to create deliberately going forward. So I've gotten to speak all over the world. I was asked to work with the United Nations. I worked with the women's director there and worked on a self-sustaining women's project in South Africa, where they flew me out for 10 days. And I worked with the women to empower them and encourage them on this same type of stuff so that they could create a self-sustaining women's project and really support their families. And it was really needed, but it was such a beautiful experience. And along the way, I've had to say yes a lot, but I've also had to be very deliberate about who I was and the impact I wanted to make along the way. So today, bringing it fast forward I'm skipping lots of things in my story, but you can go on my website and read more. My Instagram and stuff shows a lot of this stuff. So if you're interested, and you can definitely check it out. But what I'm doing today is I am the beauty director for a national medical group, and I'm helping to build the systems to help them scale their company. So I came on board when we had 3 locations. Now we have 19. So we're expanding very rapidly. It's an amazing company. I'm a co-host on the Doctor's Podcast. So I do get to sit and have these conversations a lot. That's another place you can learn a lot about me. Some of those podcasts are on the homepage of my website. And then the other piece of what my beauty business is today is I am on the advisory board for a $325 million roll-up. So we are buying 16 brands over the next 6 years, and I get to be a part of all of those acquisitions. So as you can see, going from doing services like makeup to being on runways, to being on TV, to running massive, beauty brands like at Caesars, to now being involved in the more corporate structural scale side of things. It's been a wonderful journey. It's taken 20 years to get there, but I've really had to live deliberate along the way. And then the final thing that I want to end on is cultivating inner peace and harmony. And the more you live deliberately, the more inner peace you're going to find. So finding that harmony within yourself, within your environment, and making sure that when you're moving forward, you're doing so with a very source perspective. This is who I am because I've decided deliberately that this is the woman I'm going to be. And then you go out and you do that. And I would say I'll end with this. It's time to embark on the journey of living deliberately with courage, purpose, and determination because you all can do it.